take you back to the exhilarating moment when the prize was announced and you created a landmark in literary history. Banuji, in your own beautiful, evocative words, the moment was like 1,000 fireflies lighting up a single sky. I know you would have been asked this question multiple times, and let me bug you a little by asking you again. What did that moment feel like?
It was an amazing moment. The thing is, the entire program and the moment when the prize was announced was hilarious. It was a very beautiful moment, and I felt very proud. At that time, I was representing my country, and it gave me immense pleasure because there I stood as an Indian, as Kannadiga, and as a short story teller. Because till then, from 1969 till now, no short story collection was selected for the prize. Only novels were selected. It is a first time a book from Kannada was selected and a short story was collected. And it gave me a lot of pleasure. And I was very skeptic about it because everybody was suggesting me, please don't have high hopes because it's a short story collection. You will be disappointed. And just you come with your family to London, go to some sightseeing places, enjoy. You return to your place happily and don't have high hopes about it. But I had high hopes about it. I was confident and I decided that I had to win the prize for my country. And 5 days earlier to that event, I sat alone in my home. We had an Airbnb home because my family had come. And there I wrote that Thousand Fireflies speech. I started writing already the acceptance speech. And because everybody was pushing me to negativity, and I don't want to be in the negative state of mind. So positively, I wrote that acceptance speech, and I was confident that I would say that speech standing on the dais of the Booker. And it so happened, and everything you people have witnessed it. I mean, beautiful thing to share with you people, and I am so happy for you also because I told in my speech, it's not my individual win, it's a collective win because it applies to the happiness goes to each and every Indian, and you people are also included in it. Thank you.
Deepa, you did say that the moment seemed like a very surreal moment.
It was, and I don't think I've had the time to process it still. But of course, it is an incredible win, not just on a personal level, but also for language and for stories from the South Asian region. So I'm very excited for what this will mean for literature going forward, literature and translation going forward.
Right. The evening at Tate Modern on May 20 threw up many surprises. Aapne bola, you just said that it was the first book, short story collection to take the award. Also the first book in Kannada, the original language being Kannada, to be awarded. And Deepa, your translation, you were the first Indian, a first woman of color to have won the award. In fact, the 13 books on the long list also threw up surprises, and there were many firsts. There was an Iraqi translator, Antun, from Baghdad, who's now teaching at New York University. He's a writer and a poet. He was nominated for his amazing book, amazing translation of the Book of Disappearance by Ibtisam Azam, another amazing, wonderful writer based in New York, a Palestinian writer. A surprise omission, Deepa, was that of Han Khan, who had won the 2016 revamped Booker, translated by Deborah Smith. And she was also nominated, she got the Nobel Prize for literature. The last Nobel Prize went to her and one of the books that played a role in that was We Do Not Part. Was it a surprise then that she didn't find her way to the long list?
Of course, good for us. But it is surprising, but also you never know what metrics the jury uses to determine what books to choose from. So I've not read the latest Han Kang, so I can't really comment on that.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just thought she has the Nobel. I mean, let's
Let's
leave
move
the room.
on.
Let's
Yeah.
move on. Let's leave the rest to small fry like us.
Yes. Banuji, activist, writer, lawyer, a one-time journalist, a feisty rebel. Your Heart Lamp has 12 amazing stories of women in the fault lines trapped within the fault lines of patriarchy. It was chosen, the 12 stories were chosen, Deepa, by you from some 6 collections, I think. Yeah. And 6 collections over a period of time from 1990 to 2023. So this is a long period. Do you think, again, another very cliched question, but do you think anything has changed in these 35 years? And patriarchy does seem to be continuing
Yes.
as the most pervasive and pernicious
From 35
ideology.
years, patriarchy has changed, and the status of women is also changed. The women are allowed to go for higher studies, they are allowed to go for good jobs, they are allowed to do some best things in the world. But at the same time, patriarchy has hardened. We see the decisions of day to day. We see a father kills his own daughter because he asked him some questions and she said, "You too is not a winner in your examination." And we see a Muslim girl is murdered because she had a choice to marry a Hindu boy, or a Hindu girl is murdered because she wanted to marry a Muslim boy. And we see all sorts of violences meted against the women for due to this patriarchy. Both the things are happening at the same time. She is liberated, she is educated, and she can take decision, and at the same time patriarchy is giving very hard time to women. At the same time, I feel divorces are also rate of divorces is also becoming very high. These are the developments I am seeing in nowadays.
Deepa, this is often seen as an interregnum, using a term used by Antonio Gramsci, a revolutionary Marxist philosopher, social theorist, and linguist, who said that the interregnum happens when the old order is dissolved or is dissolving, and a new order is yet to take its place. Do you also see it as an interregnum? Because I'm also looking at the gender gap index. India was 131 out of 148 countries in 2025. And we are sliding down. Last year, in 2024, we were at 129. So where do you see us going?
I mean, I think in a lot of different ways, yes, women have a slightly more, I suppose, I won't call it easy, but things have improved for sure. But I think it's also important that we note what kind of women things have improved for.
Yeah.
And it remains the upper caste, it remains the economically upper class, the socially mobile, so the same things, what has always been easy for so many of us who come from these privileged backgrounds continue to have it easier than it is for a lot of women from the religious minorities, from the sexual minorities, and all the other minorities. So, like Banu said, I mean, in a lot of ways, things have become easier, yes, but also there is a hardening of patriarchy, and patriarchy is political, and the family is the most political unit that you can find within our everyday lives. So yes, when you have someone murdering his daughter for earning in a badminton academy and those kind of things, it's very hard to say that there's going to be a rosier future. I don't see I don't see many things that have changed. So that's the unfortunate
Your
truth.
stories of injustice are equally stories of resilience. Yeah, and I think that is very important. they're very political. Your stories are also very political. They're stories of protest. And protest is linked to the word azadi, which carries a red tag. It's a lit fuse. You have been part of, you worked for Lankesh Patrike, which was patterned on Gandhi's Harijan, the newsletter Harijan, a newsletter for the dispossessed. Did your activism start then?
No, not then. And it was a different scenario at Karnataka. During 70s, there was a lot of social movements that were active in Karnataka. There was a Dalit movement, there was Kisan movement, and there was
A women's movement.
language movement, feminist movement, and theatre activism was there, and also Bandaya Sahitya Sangatne, a unifying literary organization was there of progressive writers.
And the longest language-centric movement was, in fact, the biggest movement in post-independence India, Gokak agitation.
No, it is not post-independence. Gokak
Gokak
report
was post-independence. It was in the 70s.
no Gokak.
Gokak Chaluvali was in the 70s.
It was not. Post-independence. It is during. That is what I told. Language. Gokak report was announced, and there was language movement was also there. And I was at home. I was made to resign for my job as a high school teacher, and I was at home taking only the responsibility as a wife and mother of a child.
But you were a bandaya in your personal life also.
Personal?
You were a bandaya in your
Bandaya,
personal
yeah,
life.
in person also, I was Bandaya, and I was fighting for my right to write. Yeah, I was demanding it. I wanted to write. And I was not allowed to write. That was my fight. That was my challenges that I was facing. And at that time, I was into all these movements. I was the member into all these movements. And one biggest thing transformation happened was, straight away as a housewife, I was ignorant about the social anomalies. There, day-to-day workshops took place, day-to-day programs were conducted, and day-to-day we used to visit Dalit hostels, and we used to have dialogues with Dalit youths, and I participated in farmers movement, and thereby I got to know about the society, about our constitution, about the hierarchy of religions, and about the hierarchy of patriarchy, and all those things. When I came to know, it sharpened my sensibilities. And at the same time, during 1981, I started reporting for Lankesh. And earlier to it, already my short stories were published, but in Lankesh Patrike, Lankesh asked me to give investigative reportings, as well as he wanted me to write short stories for special issues and on special occasions. And I started to write short stories and reports, everything. And due to all these moments, I was able to judge. I was able to know what is what, and I was able to give my insights into my writing. That made me something like a writer. All these moments together, and the social situation at that time, it had a greatest impact on me. And directly from a housewife, I was activist. And then I was journalist. I worked there for till 1990. Afterwards, I developed some misunderstandings with Lankesh. As an editor, he wanted to say something, and as a reporter, I didn't wanted to obey his indictments. So I resigned from the job, and I started practicing as an advocate.
You love walking on the razor's edge. You also stood for a municipal election. What made you do that?
Yes. Earlier, when I was a housewife with children, and it so happened, when I was born, my father had some Brahmin friends at that time, and so they wanted. They prepared one jatka of me, his Brahmin friends, and gave it to him. In that jatka, it was written, one day she will become the greatest writer and she will win highest accolades. It was written. And my father, he was very proud of me. But it so happened when I got admitted to the school, for 2 years I could not read anything, I could not write anything. I never knew I was admitted to Urdu school, and I never could utter a single alphabet of Urdu. So my father got confused because Jatka says something and this girl has something different. So, but he got transferred to a different district. And right before he was a health inspector, right before his office, there was one Christian convent. So he promptly took me there and asked admission. But the sisters there, head sister told me, normally Muslim girls, they won't learn Kannada. We will give a 6 months opportunity. If at all she studies, we will get her admitted here. Otherwise, we will issue TC and then you should not object. They took his undertaking and got me admitted there. But within a week, I started learning Kannada and I started Kagudita. I started to read everything in Kannada. So my father was so happy. But when afterwards I was made to resign for the sake of marriage, and I was only giving birth to children, and I was cooking and I was there, he felt very sad for me. He wanted to see some great things to be achieved by me. So one day, I shifted from my in-laws' home to my father's home. One day, when my second daughter was very small, he asked me, come over with me. We will go to Assistant Commissioner office and we will file nomination. He just wanted to do something for me. Immediately, promptly, I went with him, and there I was filing nomination for the municipal elections there at Hassan. And I contested it. It was a great experience. And twice I got elected there. and and it was a different, experience. That way I contested the election. But afterwards, I didn't want it to continue in politics. I just wanted to concentrate in literature and my profession only. So by eliminated one and other thing, then I eliminated politics also. And I got stuck with only literature and my profession as a lawyer.
But politics didn't leave you. You were at the center of a storm in 2000, I think, when you were excommunicated. There was a fatwa issued against you.
Yes. When I started writing, at that time, the writings were predominantly only by upper caste male writers. There were not even many more women writers also were not present there. So they depicted a Muslim man, they never touched a Muslim woman. Only Muslim man they depicted in their literary works, either very ideal role or he will be villainish in character. Just like you might have heard, he was depicted as a noble person, godly person, like that. Or otherwise, they were depicted as villains. And I used to wonder why this type of, black and white characterization. There are good people also, bad people, both in Hindus, Muslim, Christians, every irrespective of caste and creed. And why they are depicting that? But when I started writing, I just wanted to demolish these images, these characters. So I wanted to take the raw material directly from the society. And my another intention was I wanted to bridge the gap between the major community and the minor community. Till then, the customs, traditions, the thought process, the feasts, the funeral of Muslims, it was not known to the outer world. But when I started writing, there was huge challenges before me. I had to write under my identities. I had to write as a Muslim woman, and I am writing for Kannada readers. What subject should I deal? In what cultural background I should write? And what shall I say to them, to the Kannada writers? And I was highly confused about it. But I discussed with my stalwarts of Badaya Sahitya Sangate, and they gave me direction. Write about yourself. Write about your home. Write about your relatives. Write about your mohalla. And then I started getting some clarity. and I started writing one after another stories in a on an experimental basis. I would start writing one story, and it got published, and I awaited the reactions of the readers. As I have already told, they are the Kannada readers, and they read and said it is something good. Until now, there was an unexplored world, and she is exploring it, and she is giving it to us, and they were happy, and they were evaluating my literary as well as cultural, facts. But Muslims were not happy. They said, you are writing about us. Some of them, most of them, they also welcomed it. Some vested interest people, they were not happy. They said, and you are exposing us. वावागिरी ले रही हूँ उन लोगों से. That's what you are doing. So you should stop it. Then I said, no, I have to write. If I don't write, I cannot survive. I said them, if I write, my hand will burn. If I don't write, my heart will burn. So I had to write. Then they said, you are not among us. You are not a Muslim. When you die, you will not be buried in our Khabristan, and you will not be socialized in our community. Then I said, I don't worry, because if I die, after my death, it's not my issue. It is the issue of the district administration. They will come running and they will give me a proper cremation. And finally, they too realized something. And at the same time, more than that, my literary evaluation, there was some question from a journalist who asked me, why Muslim women are not allowed to enter into mosque for prayer, and are you going to take up this issue, and are you going to struggle against it? Then I said, not necessary, it is not needed, because nowhere it is written that Muslim women should not enter a mosque for prayer. It is permitted by the religion. It is only the patriarchy which is not allowing. That's why I need to fight against only the patriarchy, not the religion. Because the religion has allowed and these people are not allowing. And when I state the statement, they gathered all these things against me, and they excommunicated me. Further, they realized and said, no, we will take back that orders against you and everything. But for 3 months, it was very tough for me. It is very tough for me. And every Tom, Dick and Harry would come and start dictating me. One day, one person brought an affidavit wherein it was stated, I, Banu, Mushtaq, wife of such and such a person residing at such and such a place, a stamp paper was written and said, from today onwards, I will not write any short story, any novel, any poem, or any essay or any news item. Hereby I declare. I said, I tore that and placed in his hand and said, even if you take me to the center of our Subhas Square and hang me there, I will not sign this affidavit. I told them flatly. This is the thing.
Many of your stories sparked a debate on Muslim personal laws. And I'm thinking of the story, The Black Cobras, that was turned into a film by Girish Kasravali, and did very well. It won 3 national awards. Yeah. So now...
It was screened in foreign film festivals.
Right. In both national and international film festivals. Deepa, now on to you. You've been columnist. I've been reading your columns on both literature and the arts. Yeah, and I love them in very indescribable ways, but I really like them. There's one I remember I read on, I think it was on T.M. Krishna's book on the Mridangam makers, the caste
Sebastian
of
and Sons.
Carnatic.
Yes.
Is that the...
Sebastian
yeah,
and Sons,
yeah.
yes.
And then there was another one that I really liked. It was about the binary between art and craft, the artist and the artisan, Meera Mukherjee and Baghel. Yes. So I've been following your
Thank you.
writing and totally mesmerized. So I'm going to ask you, when you turned to translation, was it a leap of faith?
Not really. Firstly, I'm not a full-time. I I'm not a full-time translator.
And you also, no, I also want to tell people that she was also the co-founder of an amazing collective, the Forager Collective, and later the co-editor of a journal on the politics of food. How interesting is that?
It's called The Forager.
Yeah.
I think our designer, my friend, was supposed to be here, Vivek. I don't know if he's here. Yes, so I continue to not be a full-time translator. So I got into it pretty accidentally, and why I stay on in it is I call myself pretty selfish about. I'm a selfish translator because, like I'm sure many of us here, I studied in an English medium school throughout, from kindergarten all the way to college, and started working in English. So that took me further and further away from Kannada, as I'm sure is the case with those of us who have other languages at home. Somehow you end up doing all your intellectual activity in English or thinking in English and using mostly English in our everyday lives. And when I translated my first book by Kodagina Gaurama, who is from my town.
And what a feisty feminist.
Yes.
Early 20th
Early
century.
20th century.
Amazing.
Yeah. So she was amazing. I mean, I think I come from a very tiny town. So way back in the day, she was a nationalist. She was one of the, I think, only women who wore a swimsuit and swam in public ponds. So back in the 1920s, I can't imagine how radical that must have been. So when I started translating that, I realized that I was getting closer to Kannada. And that absolutely fascinated me, because for me, it was very important to strengthen my association, my relationship with my language. And when you're translating, naturally you're thinking in two languages. You're kind of playing with two grammar systems, two syntax, two kinds of sentence structures. So much more than getting closer to English, that was never my intention to carry works from the Kannada language to English. It was important for me to get closer to Kannada, which is why I continue to translate, I would say. So I choose to...
Although Kannada is not your mother tongue.
It is.
It is.
It's so my community speaks Havyaka, which is kind of the older version of Kannada, but we don't use that very often. My family and I speak in Kannada. So it became important to me to get closer to my language, which is how I ended up picking up projects going forward as well, texts which allow me to play with language.
You also translated a book by Karanth.
Yes.
Yes.
Kota Shivaram Karanth. Yeah. So he was one of the most important writers in Kannada in the 20th century again.
So 3 radically different books.
Yes. So like I said, I like to pick up projects where I can play with language, with both the Kannada and how I take it to English as well. So it just happens that, of course, Shivaram Karanth is a very important writer, and Kodagina Gaurama had never been translated before. So it was very interesting to shift from one project to the other, wildly different in terms of location, in terms of language, in terms of the way the politics were placed in their books as well.
And then you came to Banu.
Yes.
We discovered that you were translating Banu when, I think it was last summer in the Paris Review, one read your translation of The Red Lungi. And I think it was, again, the first time a journal like the Paris Review was carrying a translation of a story that was originally in Kannada.
Yeah, so that was many firsts. I think none of these journals had published anything originally in Kannada, which originally written in Kannada earlier.
You also won the Pen Award.
Yes. So it just so happened that all the trajectory was very interesting. First there was the Pen Presence, and then Penguin came on board, and then it was And Other Stories, the UK publishers. So it was interesting. I'm sure it was interesting for them as well, because they had not dealt with a text from Kannada, so a lot of things were new for them. So in the editing process, I think every other day I was writing mini essays describing why, for example, re is how women in conservative families would refer to their
There was
husbands.
another one in Paris review. I'm trying to remember the word ante.
Ante.
Yeah.
Yeah, ante is my favorite word in the Kannada language. We use it a lot. I don't know if there are equivalents in other language. So we almost always, very often end every sentence with ante. So it could be reported speech, it could be a piece of gossip that you're conveying, or it could be hearsay. It could be a whole lot of different things depending on context. And I think I find that the single most hardest word to translate. The closest that one could say is it seems. But somehow, that's just a very literal, sort of very lazy translation, because there's absolutely nothing else that can be used to convey that word.
Since we are talking so much about Kannada, I don't know if all of you know that 50 to 60 million,
I think
65 million Kannada speakers and readers across the world. That's the population. That's more than the population of England.
Also, I think we have a unbroken literary history of 1,500 years. Of course, the oral literature is far older, but unbroken literary history of 1,500 years.
And it's a very musical language. Banu, was that you who said that the language sings of resilience and nuance? Or was it you, Deepa?
That was me.
That was you.
Sorry.
So, talking about Kannada, Banu, your mother tongue was not Kannada, it was Dakkani. And Dakkani is a syncretic blend of several languages, of Dehelvi, of Persian, of Marathi, Telugu, and Kannada. So what made you turn to Kannada? Of course, you went to the Kannada Museum School, Medium School.
That's why I was got admitted to Kannada school. And it so happened my grandfather was not happy that a girl from the family, she will cast away from religion and Quran and culture, everything, if she reads Kannada. And he vehemently he tried and taught me Urdu and Arabic. And I know I can read and write, and Arabic also I am well versed it. But the important thing is, I want to say, I have written novels also, poems also, essays, and along with it, I am a translator also. I have translated highly Persianized Urdu writings of Farishta, the historian. He stayed there at Bijapur, and he has written about 7,000 pages of South Asian history. And there is an organization called Halakatti Samshodhana Samstha Research Center at Bijapur, and they secured that 7,000 pages of history of Farishta from Salarjung Museum, and they distributed that 250 pages to each person, about 7 persons, to translate it to Kannada. And it is not even Dakkani, and it is not even the north speaking Urdu also. It is highly Persianized Urdu, and I am so happy. I did my translation job very good, and it was they gave me 2 volumes of 250 pages each, and I have translated 500 pages of Tarikh-e Farishta and into Kannada. And whatever I do, if I take up translation, I give 100%. If I write a short story, I give 100%. If I report to a newspaper, I give my 100%. Likewise, I am really happy and proud to say I am a translator also. I am a translator, yes.
Could I add to that? No, I just wanted to say that the idea of multilinguality is far more common in, at least I can speak for Karnataka, because I think in the mid to late 20th century, we had many writers who spoke a different language at home. For example, Girish Karnad was a Konkani speaking person. He wrote fabulously in, obviously in Kannada, but also worked majorly in English. Uh, Dr. Professor Anand Murthy, or slightly older Masti Venkatesh Iyengar. So we've had a whole very long tradition of writers who speak and work between multiple languages. And that, I think, continues to this day. The idea of multilingual, the idea of at least being able to access multiple languages in Karnataka. So I
And
think
yet, when you set about trying to translate Banu, you set yourself some tutorials. This is what Daisy Rockwell, I was thinking, probably meant when she used the term invisible force fields.
I love that. Yeah.
Invisible force fields, yeah. Tell us about the tutorials.
So I knew that the first very lazy critique that would come my way was that how dare I, a non-Muslim, translate Muslim stories. And of course these things are ridiculous, but then the laziness of is what I didn't want to have to deal with. So it took me a while to be okay with the idea that I would always be an outsider in a lot of ways. And there would be nuances in the Muslim culture and traditions that I might not entirely understand. But then, on the other hand, I was also kind of confident that being an outsider would help in many ways, because I would probably end up noticing things that would be taken for granted
The
by
fly on the ceiling.
Yes, absolutely. So, just to get as close to the culture as possible, I gave myself several months, watched way too many Pakistani Urdu dramas. If anyone's watched, they're so addictive. Yes. And so basically, I was watching a lot of TV and calling it research. I was listening to rediscovering a lot of old favorite Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan,
Abida Parveen.
of course, and
Ali Sethi.
Ali Sethi, Aruj Aftab, all the older and newer ones. And reading a lot of books set in similar social, political backgrounds.
Also studying Urdu.
Studying Urdu.
It was not all flippant.
No, I took a Urdu script reading class by this amazing, she used to be in Delhi, Akshita Nagpal, so she's now in Bombay. So I did that, and way back several years ago, I had a Maulvi Sahib come to my house to try to teach me Arabic. The poor man didn't, I was not a very good student, I'm sure. So I did that, and I was reading anything I could find from the culture, and basically trying to get as close to the culture as possible. And somewhere, thanks to these things being invisible force fields, it helped immensely, I'm sure, to
so
do a
Daisy
better
was
job.
not talking about electrical force fields or magnetic force fields. She
No.
was talking about emotional timber and
Yes.
and what you just said, cultural ethos,
Yes.
basically.
And also because I think, yes, on one hand, language, any language you take is a tool for communication, sure. But then language embodies so much more. It embodies our culture, our histories, our storytelling, our food, our so many things, so many socio-political, cultural aspects.
And you were up against, I think somewhere you described it as the quirks or the idiosyncrasies of Banu's strange dialect in Kannada.
Yes.
And you
yeah.
said there was a lot of tart in her voice, That's a tart in her voice that was a stinking sort of a voice. But you meant it as a huge compliment, I'm sure. It was
It
not
was.
the voice of the elite. It was the subaltern voice.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, like again with so many Indian languages, I think every 50 or 100 kilometers you go, everything about the language changes. So even though I live in Madikeri and she's from Hassan, that's about 110 kilometers away. There are a lot of Hassan Kannada words which I used in the book, which I was not very familiar with.
So she also uses, Banu, you use Kannada, Dakkani, Urdu, Arabic.
When I wanted to introduce Muslim culture into Kannada, I used Arabic words, I used Persian words as it is used by the Muslim community in our area. Because they say kafan. Namaz is namaz. I cannot translate it into Kannada. That is what I experimented with the Kannada readers, whether they accept it or whether they reject this, intrusion of Urdu or Arabic or Persian language that we use there. But I am so happy the Kannadigas, they accepted those words, and those words, we say Asar Namaz, it is in Asar in Kannada, and we say Ramzan, it is Ramzan, Rosa, and it is Rosa, and they accepted these words, and these words are part of Kannada now, and it is growing, language is growing.
Deepa, once more. Um, how difficult was it to, to sort of internalize the tone, the texture, the rhythm, the tone, of Banu's voice? And as a writer, how difficult was it for you to carry that voice in your head? Because you were writing also at the same time. You were not only translating.
I won't say it is it was very difficult, because once I got the cultural, I won't say I completely got the cultural nuances, but once I was doing all this research and prep for the translation, then it got easier. So for me, I think the first story would have been harder.
Was it the Red Lungi? Was it the first story?
No, Heart Lamp was the first story.
Heart Lamp.
Yeah, so that was the one that was sent to the English Pen Presence grant. So then, no, it wasn't difficult for me. So I think I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing my own work and then getting into. So I don't translate more than one work simultaneously.
And your translation, critics have said, has a Kannada hum, a Dakhini hum,
Yes.
an Urdu hum, an Arabic hum.
Yeah. So the hum part, the articulation of that bit, I owe it to Hisham Matar, who I have a huge reading crush on at the moment. So in one of his interviews, in a very old edition of in the Country of Men, I think, he mentions how he brings out, not brings out, I think it was the interviewer who detected a Arabic hum in his language, in the English that Hisham Matar writes, and then he goes on to explain why that is so and all that. So
And
this
you
was
call it, I found that so amusing, you call it translating with an accent,
Yes.
without italics.
Yeah. So for me that was important, because I was not trying to flatten the translation by making it easy for a British reader or an American reader or so on.
So I have to tell everyone, I'm going to interrupt you to tell everyone what Max Porter thought about your translation. He said it was a radical translation that, what did he say?
Textures of
Yeah,
English.
something about the textures of
Text-
English and
yeah,
the
introduces
plurality
the-
of Englishes
yes,
that
and
you
the
use.
textures, yeah. Because I think it's about time we started being unapologetic about our English. I think for way too long we've been trying to make it easy for readers outside of India. For example, I'm sure a lot of us here use, you do one thing, or small things, or things like that. I mean, that is very much an Indian accent that we use in our languages. We are not trying to, we are not British. I didn't want to translate
Be
like
Eurocentric in your
No,
translation.
absolutely not. So
Or even
this-
Northern.
that. Absolutely. So this was a complete, one was a rejection of Western centricity, and say, this is not how we're not trying to speak like them, or write like them, or read like them. And secondly, also what you mentioned, North Indian centric as well, because a lot of books which get translated from several Indian languages tend to use words which are easily Googleable. Like for example, roti is ROTI, and that's not how we pronounce the word in South India. For us, it's roti. So I didn't see why we had to make it easy and just make it roti when we don't use it, use that pronunciation. Or or Serugu. For example, we don't use pallu. For us, it is Serugu. And things like that. So that also locates the English in a certain geographical and therefore socio-cultural region as well. So I was very clear about that. And regarding, Western thing, what I said, this is how we speak English, so why not have it in our books as well. I don't see why we have to make it easy for, Western readers. Also, I don't understand why there needs to be an easy book, why we need to explain every single word and make it so, just dumb it down. We don't need to do that and lose the essence of what our stories carry from whichever language it is into English.
True. I was also thinking of Jhumpa Lahiri. Her definition of translation is also pretty radical. She talks about a text being reborn through translation and being often indescribably different from the original text, although the essence is there, the essence of the original text is there. In your practice, is that the way you look at translation?
Absolutely, because I think the translated text becomes the third text. It is not entirely owned by the writer who wrote it in whatever language it was originally written in. It is not the complete creation of the translator herself. So this third text which comes out is equally owned by both the translator and the author in the original language, which is why I prefer the term writer-translator, because when I don't know, I mean, at least to me, just calling someone a translator does not equate them with the labor that, does not acknowledge the labor that they put in the creation of this third text. So whereas writer-translator, at least in my, that's how I see it. It puts us on an equal platform with whoever the original author of the text is.
So what do you think of this new AI centered translation service, Globe Scribe?
Oh, I know.
That was
It's
just launched,
terrible.
I think, about a week ago. And they're offering to translate a book for $100.
Yes.
Banu, would you go for that?
Any technology. What I'm saying is we cannot reject any technology. But how far we can use any technology, it is left to us. Whether it is a creative or fiction or report or any such thing, see, we rejected flour mills for our chakki, but it became the order of the day. And we rejected so many things in the which came through technology, but afterwards the entire humankind went with it. And now we are rejecting the AI also. I don't know what will happen. Whether the people will follow it or they doesn't follow it, or they use it or they doesn't use it. That thing we have to know. But what I want to say is, you cannot absolutely reject any new invention and brand it in any way. It has got its own shelf value, and if it is used, it will continue. If it is not used, it will discontinue.
So Deepa, this is so against what you've been saying. You call translation an instinctual process, and there can't be a one-to-one equivalence in translation.
Not only in translation. Yeah. Through AI, you can create a poem. You can write a short story. You can write a novel also. If you feed it the characters and the subject matter, it will create a novel itself. It is not only, it doesn't apply only to translation. And even though some of my friends, they use this AI for legal drafting also. I have seen it. Yeah, people are using it already. Capacity. Yes, that's what.
Sure, AI has its uses. I'm sure a lot of us use it in many fields, but I think the question to ask ourselves is, do we need it in the first place? Because art is something that is so deeply human and influenced by, I don't know, when we create art, whether it is a painting or a piece of text or literature or poetry or whatever, we are also following in the footsteps of hundreds and thousands of years of culture. So yes, sure, AI tools will have access to several, I don't know, maybe centuries of these cultural productions. But firstly, I'm not nervous about AI doing my job, certainly not. It can do a job, but is that something that we want? Will it carry the innate humanness that we lend to our artistic creations? I certainly don't think so.
When I'd planned this session, I was planning to end it, by asking you to read from the Red Lungi. But we are already, I think it's about 8:30. It's time to end. Thank you very much. Thank you for your
Thank you so
patience.
much.